So I said that's an important point to add to the coaching. So now we've got this traditional way of doing business where we would teach people how to do some selling, or we'll go through a course and whatever,
Yep.
right? Is there any data that's showing, like, when you take a course, like what happens the next month after?
There's, a lot of data I've seen has been recycled, and if you actually look at it, like, it's been around for a long time. So I do know anecdotally, like from my own experience,
Right.
that if you train a team and you just deliver the information, and it's like one way, then, the retention is low. Now, if you actually, what we found though, is if we have testing, so like we got online courses now with clients where there's a quiz at the end of each module to see what they learned. Just that one thing where they have to do a quick quiz and then submit an implementation doc to their manager, it goes up significantly. And then if you combine that with coaching, then one-on-one check-ins, then it starts to become a true sales enablement tool. And for me, my finding is that a hybrid approach is even better. So you do a lot of people do like self-directed learning, so they don't have to all be stuck in a room in the middle of a time when they could be selling, so they can take in a lot of the information at their own pace. But then there has to be a in-person aspect of it as well. So kind of the best sales training or even leadership training or whatever training you're doing, especially in human communications, there's an element of learn at your own pace, testing, coaching, and then in-person interaction. Seems to work the best as far as the format goes. But I'm finding that, we all like to watch TikTok videos now on Instagram, and our attention span's low. So, 15-minute chunks of information max seem to be, what's working, right?
How long, in your experience, right, does it take to take a salesperson from wherever they are to actually seeing noticeable results?
So, it can be immediate.
Yeah.
Like, I've had people whose closing ratios on quotes was like 10%. And then I've said, how many of these people are you asking for the next appointment before you write the quote? And they're like, none. And I'm like, okay, before you agree to write a quote or proposal, book a follow-up time to review it with them. All of a sudden they went from 10 to 40%. So sometimes it's rifle-focused coaching/training, right? So sometimes if there's a process thing, you can tweak it a little bit. If it's an emotional intelligence or empathy issue, that's more work, right?
Yeah.
I think that's actually probably, to a large degree, an HR problem. You hired the wrong person, right? And so, but sales process. Now, with that said, over time, a matter of 90 days, I've seen significant increase when you shift sales strategy. Something simple is the fact that they're not even using the Pareto principle, which is where they're 20% of your business is going to come from 80% of your clients. So have I learned how to build that criteria really well? And is all my proactive time and even my sales plan and my KPIs focused on that market? Or are my people just out there knocking on every door? And so just a shift like that within 90 days, you'll see a significant increase in deal size. And also your sales cycle shortens. It's kind of contrarian to what you'd think. If you go after bigger, more lucrative opportunities that you really understand that market well, your sales cycle shortens in comparison to if you're just open to going after anybody, right?
You mentioned as well making sure that the actual information is more. My sound is kind of weird.
Yeah.
When you actually make the actual transition, right, to becoming all these things that you talk about, right?
Yeah.
How does salespeople know what they don't know? Like, how do you, like, I'm a good salesperson. I've been doing this now for 20 years, right? I know what to do, right?
Yeah.
You can't convince some people, right, that they need to do this stuff, right? How do you change that and make them understand that they need to do these things?
Back to, there's truth in numbers, right? So you sit down and review their pipeline in Salesforce or Dynamics, whatever you're using, and that can be telling. And sometimes, I have to wait till someone's not doing stuff well to actually run into a wall themselves where they're open to feedback. Sometimes there's a lot of ego involved. Right. But to a large degree, for me, one of them is, Dennis Covier, and when Dr. Dennis Covier and I wrote the book, Real Results in a Virtual Economy, that came out a couple of years back. Right. And one of the things we do is we built the new sales competency map. And it's pretty comprehensive. And when I walk a team of people through the checklist of what the new sales competency map is, but why, like why you need these skills, then a lot of salespeople will say, they're willing to put their hand up and say, I've got gaps. So I think if you use subjective benchmarks from the industry where you can walk people through and they can assess themselves. And I work with the Canadian Professional Sales Association as well, and they have a light assessment, so to speak. It's not their full exam, just to let you kind of know where you're at. And tools like that are great too, because the minute your manager tells you, or the owner of the company says this is what you're doing wrong, you often go, well, you're biased, or you don't know me, or we've got this relationship. But if a third-party tool that's done, not by a human but by me, putting information in, spits out the results, sometimes that can be effective too, to just sort of show them where they need to improve. And most salespeople, like the people will say to me when they hire me, you got to watch out for Bob and Sarah, because see, Bob and Sarah have been around a long time. They know a lot. They're really effective at selling, and so you got to watch out for them. And they're going to be trouble. And do you know where Bob and Sarah are when I get there in the morning? In the front row. And they got their notepad. And you ask Bob, who's been selling for 25 years, Bob, why are you here? You say, I'm looking for one more thing. I want to learn one more thing. If I can get one thing out of this whole day, it'll be worth coming here. And that's the attitude. My challenge is often with the mediocre salespeople who aren't cutting their numbers, and they're like, I know it all. And that's why the minute you say I know instead of I'm curious, that's where your sales stops to grow, right?
Got to be open.